This is AIM Agenda. Thanks for your company. Joining me from Melbourne now, Liberal MP Josh Frydenberg. Josh Frydenberg, you heard what Kevin Rudd had to say regarding the GST. Is it in the coalition's sights?
This is such a red herring. It's very dishonest of Kevin Rudd to raise this issue because we have absolutely no plans to increase the GST. Let's debate the economy. Let's debate the fact that 240,000 people have lost their jobs in small business. 2, that over 100,000 people have lost their jobs in manufacturing, more than one every 11 minutes under this industry minister, Kim Carr. 3, that our unemployment is above 6% in Queensland, above 8% in Tasmania, and youth unemployment is the highest in 15 years. And 4, that we've got our budget deficit blowout after blowout, with spiralling to $400 billion.
But Josh Frydenberg, you said there's no plans to. That's the point. No plans at this stage. But that's left an opening for Kevin Rudd to walk through, and that's what he's done this morning, saying that that is a prospect. You're saying there's no plans, but is there a prospect down the track that the coalition is willing to look at this? Because the revenue's got to come from somewhere, doesn't it?
No, I mean, we've got the way we're going to raise revenue, or with the way we're going to more to the point, cut spending, Kieran, is by looking at the waste and mismanagement of this government, and we've already identified a number of those areas. You see, what Kevin Rudd failed to say in his press conference this morning is that Labor is spending more than $120 billion a year, more than in the last year of the Howard government. So spending is their problem.
Okay, let's go to...
they're always trying new taxes, but spending is their problem.
Ed Husic now. This appears like an old classic scare campaign from Mr Rudd. There's no plan here to increase the GST. They're just saying that they're going to look at options down the track. That's what sensible governments do, isn't it, Ed Husic?
Well, you don't float that type of comment like what Joe Hockey's done if you're not thinking seriously of doing these things. I mean, if Joe Hockey had no intention of seriously looking at the GST and increasing it, and I just came back from Tasmania where Tasmanians are rightly worried based on the comments of Tony Abbott that the GST formula, the redistribution, needs to be re-examined as well. We've had enough smoke signals on the horizon to suggest in very concrete terms that this is something that's going to happen. And they have to do it, Kieran, because frankly they have not on the one hand identified where the $70 billion in cuts that they've been saying for ages and never disputed have to come. They have this muddled policy.
Where's the proof, though, that they're planning a GST shift? This is a red herring, isn't it?
Well, they've got this muddled policy, Kieran, where on the one hand they've opposed company tax cuts in times past. Now they say they want to bring one in, only to cover the fact that they've got a paid parental leave scheme that will increase company tax for 3,000 firms in this country. And so the problem for them is they've got all this money sloshing around and they need to find another source. And as I said, when you look at the smoke signals, when you look at the fact that people on the ground are worried, that's enough to suggest in very concrete terms that this is on the cards.
And there's a real problem here for the coalition to the extent, Josh Frydenberg, that the Nationals don't even support the paid parental leave scheme. There is a report in the Australian today, and I can tell you, I've got this from other Nationals independently to me, that they don't like it and they're willing to cross the floor on it. So that wouldn't be a great start to a coalition government if your signature policy on paid parental leave that you've got Nationals breaking off and crossing the floor.
Look, the coalition is absolutely committed to a fair dinkum paid parental leave, not a Mickey Mouse one that you have currently under this government. I mean, the government's the only government in the OECD with a paid parental leave scheme at minimum wage, let alone at 18 weeks. So, the point about the paid parental leave scheme is it's all about increasing productivity, getting more women into the workforce.
You better convince the Nationals of that, though. That's the problem, isn't it? They don't support it.
Well, look, the point is we need a $25 billion dividend to the Australian economy from getting more women into work. We're low by OECD standards in getting the number of women into work. So we need a fair dinkum scheme. But again, the point here is that if we announce a company tax cut, we're going to help 750,000 businesses. Kieran, Labor promises company tax cuts. They never deliver them. and the Henry Tax Review itself said that a company tax cut rate will actually create more jobs, will boost productivity, will help grow the economy. That's Ken Henry's own report, and that's why a company tax rate cut is so important to the Australian economy.
Let's finish off just on something else, because there's been some criticism of Anthony Albanese this morning for having a beer, dinner, whatever else, with Craig Thomson last night in Sydney. Josh Frydenberg, is this appropriate as criticism, or aren't MPs entitled to have a beer with anyone they like?
Well, what's the Deputy Prime Minister doing having a beer with the disgraced Craig Thomson? I mean, you know, the Labor Party says they're going to run their own candidate in Dobell, but it's completely chaotic. We don't know who that candidate is. The Coalition has pre-selected candidates in all 150 seats in the House of Representatives. They're out in the field. They're winning the support of their local communities, whereas Labor is completely chaotic in this regard, and we don't even have a Labor candidate yet for Dobell. So I don't know what Anthony Albanese is doing. It sounds like he's trying to stitch up a deal with Craig Thomson, and doing deals again with independents and minor parties. And the Australian people have rejected that firmly after the chaotic performance of the last few years.
Ed Husic, your response to conclude our discussion this morning?
Kieran, we've been waiting for months for the opportunity to debate the big issues in this election from an opposition that runs from every single debate. If this is the big issue of the day, then I just think it disrespects the Australian public, frankly.
It's not the big issue, it's the last issue we're talking about, and I'm just getting you a chance to respond to the criticism.
But this is an election, Kieran, this is an election, Kieran, where big issues are at stake. We've spoken for what feels like a nanosecond on some of the big issues about the economy, and now this has basically dominated the tail end of it.
A chance to respond to the criticism is all it is. Anyway, Ed Husic, Josh Frydenberg, we're out of time for our discussion. A quick break. We'll be right back with AM Agenda, and Scott Morrison joining me from Canberra. Also the Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young. Stay with us.